Morning.
Morning.
How are you?
I'm okay. Where are you on?
Yeah, we're admitting people. You know, it's started admitting. I don't have my screen on. It's just easier for me to see who's chiming in here.
Good morning.
Good morning. You don't sound awake, Chris.
Me?
No, the other Chris Birchler.
Oh, no, he doesn't sound, he never sounds awake. Right, Chris? Oh, he just went to get his coffee, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Probably. Chris, Dr. Stutz-Doyle, do you know if Kevin is going to be joining this, just so I know to look out for him?
Yes, he'll
Okay.
it's 5 a.m. there, but he'll be joining us.
Oh, wow, good for him.
He also he wants to be in for a while, and then he also wants to discuss with them some getting together as a group to go over different things
Oh, okay. All right.
as far as exams and tutoring and things like that.
Okay. All right. That way I have the proper head count for how many we should be seeing.
So they're coming in. Is it snowing by you?
It is.
Yeah, it's snowing here too.
And
Snowing?
it's,
Go ahead.
yeah, no, and it got, I know it got icy.
Yeah, it's snowing right now. I don't know. Are we supposed to get any accumulation that you know of?
There is supposed to be, yeah. Chris, can you hear us?
I can.
No, Chris Birchler?
They don't have they're muted.
Yeah, I know, but I just saw somebody chatted from that Chris said. Okay. Chris, send me a chat.
You want me to or him?
No, it's Birchler,
Oh,
because he's saying he can't hear.
I see Monica's asking too.
Yeah, Professor Maley, this is Ashka. I can hear both of you. Just
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on with Chris Birchler.
Monica's asking, did Zoom ask you to tap a phone number from a list?
No, everything's okay now.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Okay.
Chris still can't hear? Hi,
Chris
Kev.
Birchler, can you hear? Chris Birchler?
Morning, Dr. Stutz.
Morning, Kev.
Morning.
Morning, Professor Maley.
I like your hair, Kev.
Oh yeah, the purposely calculated to seem like I just gotten from bed. Thank you.
But you did. It's 5 a.m. there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. You're dedicated.
I mean, I usually get up around this time anyway, so.
Oh, Stuffy is such a good guy.
And we're getting there. I see Chris Birchler just logged off. I guess he's going to log back in.
And Kevin and I would like to start with just a real quick something.
Sure. Okay, no problem. Well, we're up to 11. We need to be at 27. Assuming everybody is going to be on.
Well, they better.
That's right. And Chris, Dr. Stutz-Doyle, we got too many Chris's. I just want to touch base with you offline for a few minutes. Okay.
Did you want to text me or you want to call me?
I'll call you.
Okay.
Should I call the home or the cell?
You can either one. You can call the cell. It's right here. I'll just mute myself.
Okay. No, I don't mean now. When we get done, I'll give, we'll talk later. It's
Okay.
nothing. It's not urgent.
Okay. So there's 10.
Yeah, we
Everybody
should,
Yeah, everybody knows it's an 8 o'clock, because I told them all.
yeah, they do, and they got their emails. And they obviously don't like 8 o'clock class.
You know, if this is any telltale sign of what they're gonna be doing in clinic, we're in
Yeah.
trouble.
Well, we're gonna talk about tardiness and attendance. So it's timely. I'm doing this on my iPad because I've been having some stability issues on my PC with Zoom meetings. So,
That's been a while, hasn't it? Did you have a problem last week?
well, I have Kevin's probably Kevin, you're probably familiar with the blue screen of death.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's happened several times on my Surface.
Ooh, that's definitely a bad sign.
Yeah, it's nice.
From what I heard, that those only get worse. Like
Yeah.
they happen more frequently. So
Yeah, that's all I need to hear. I think it's a Windows 10 issue.
yeah, maybe. I mean, I not very many people I know have Windows, but like they use Macs and stuff. But
Yeah, well, next time I'll be switching to Mac. I still have it, but
yeah,
stability issues are ridiculous.
yeah.
Listen, you'll be retiring, you won't be using any.
Yeah, that's true. The only Mac I'll use is an Apple. Well, we're at 14 and it's 8 o'clock. So
Good morning.
good morning. Now we can hear you.
What happened, Chris?
Good. Yeah, I don't know. I was having more technical issues. Thank you, Kevin, the other day, 2 days ago for promptly dealing with that. What did we have? What is that thing called? Respondus?
Well,
Responded.
That wasn't me. That was either Dr. Stutz or
Oh,
Professor
okay.
Maley. Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
I'll take the credit for it though.
Oh, I
Thank
thought they
you.
called you. I thought they placed an emergency phone call.
Oh, we're capable of some things without Kevin, just not everything.
Yeah, I was like sprinting from the hallway down to the labs. I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
this is bad.
And in spite of that, I think you got the highest grade, I think.
He did. Yeah, he's one of.
Mhm.
Oh, now he's gonna have a swelled head.
Mm.
Oh man.
Oh, don't worry, we'll knock you down a couple pegs, Chris. Don't worry.
All right, where is everybody? Here they are, 18.
Well, we're at 18.
I should have told them we'll close them all off at 8:05.
I sent a reminder yesterday too, so hopefully.
You're a good officer, Ashka. That's good.
I'm setting something this morning too to everyone.
We need 7 more.
We should keep track of who these 7 are.
Yeah, I try to do that, but it's hard, when you're trying to.
Joe just texted me. He said his laptop is updating right now.
Oh, jeez. And who was that said they're updating?
7.
Joe Scalacci. Can't pronounce.
Joe. Okay.
No, I'm here.
Oh, 7.
We're at 21. You're not seeing my face. You're simply seeing a nice picture of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, which is where I wish I was right now.
What's the weather there now?
It's been raining most of the week. Actually, I think it's okay today, but a lot warmer than here. All right, we're at 22. 23.
Did Joe get on?
think I heard him say yes, right? No, I don't see Joe, actually.
Devin got on, Joe didn't.
No. Do-do-do-do-do-do.
Devin, is it cold in your place?
You're talking to
What?
me?
Devin, you have a hat on. Is it cold?
Oh no, I just got some wicked bedhead.
Oh,
Oh, jeez.
Just try to cover that one up.
Well, Chris, it's up to you. If you wanna, we're at 23, obviously I can continue to admit people. Let's see, it's 24 and I just got a chat. Who's chatting?
Cindy's just coming on.
Brian Fuentes is at work. Okay, does that mean he's not joining us? We're at 24.
Okay, let's just start.
Okay, go ahead. It's all yours.
Okay, the first thing I wanted to say is that the exam was corrected and its scores were not that great. Some people did very well, other people did poorly. And Kevin and I were speaking. No one reached out to Kevin regarding some assistance with any of the questions, but we were doing this last night. There were about 7, 8 questions that 50% of people, more than 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 questions that 50% of the class got wrong. So that's a big number for 12 questions. Obviously, as I said earlier, some people did very, very well, and you all have the same information, so I don't know what the problem was. However, some of it may be attributed to online lectures, because online lectures are very different from in person. And some may just be attributed to the fact that some people maybe didn't understand the question or didn't really understand the material, for whatever reason. I'm going to encourage you to, together with Kevin, and Kevin will talk a little bit about more when he is available, I think Kevin wants to run it either a group session or individual if needed, and to go over these questions that people did poorly on, because understanding this is really important. It's going, first of all, it's going to show up on your final, it's going to show up on your state board exam. And even though some of you think, well, it's wound care, it's this, bacterial problems, it's venous problems, it's isolation techniques, etc., it's not really that important for physical therapy. It's very important for physical therapy. So I think that you guys really have to have an understanding of it. So for whatever reason, wherever the problem was, I think that you need to get together with Kevin and ask all of us, any of us, questions that you really don't have or not comfortable with. And as I said, taking a look, did any of you go back, or you really can't go back to look at those questions, right? You could just go back to look at what your grade was on the exam. But Kevin,
Yeah, that should be, I think they can only see the grade. I don't think they can see their questions. Just so you guys know, class average is a 72. Okay, so like some of you guys may have an idea of how you did when you took the test, but like I'll talk about it at the end of today. I was thinking if some of you guys are free or not, like I can start going over some of those questions, and then we'll talk about it at the end of today. So some people stay on and we can kind of figure out how you want to do like review of these questions. If you want to do it individually, that's fine too. You can shoot me an email and I'll go over your exams with you personally. but I could also go over like these specific questions that like a bunch of people got wrong. I could do that in like a group session as well. So
When do we find our grades for the exam?
it should be up. Is it?
With the bonus.
I don't think it
wait.
is.
It's not,
Okay, if it's not up, I got to figure out how to make it so that it's up for you guys. But if it, you know, either you're gonna like the grades are up, so you'll if I have to email them to you, I'll email them to you. There's supposed to be a way that it shows up on your Moodle, but I don't know why it's not showing up. So I got to figure that out.
It should be, because I looked at it this morning, obviously I'm privy to all of the, but it's in gradebook.
Yeah, that's why I thought they would be able to
Grades.
see yeah, that's why I thought they would be able to see their individual grades. But if it's not up, we'll talk about that at the end, guys. So like you'll have your grades by the end of today for sure. So
And with the bonus asked for the different type of wounds, Ashka, you gave a very good list of what they were and what they looked like. And what we were looking for was venous, arterial, and neuropathic. And obviously, you guys should know the difference between a venous wound and arterial wound, what you should do for it, which one should be wrapped, which one shouldn't, which one should be painful, which one shouldn't. You know, there are reasons for that, and we discussed that. And there was even a little grid that I asked you to make sure you committed to memory, because it describes what the wound looks like and what the patient would feel. And intermittent, I think we're talking to Chris about this, intermittent claudication is associated with the arterial wound, and that's very different from a DVT, right? DVT is associated with a deep venous thrombosis or something that can dislodge and become a pulmonary embolism. That's not the same as intermittent claudication, which is calf pain. And intermittent claudication is due to ischemia, which is arterial, right? So someone has intermittent calf pain, which becomes worse, and patient has pain at rest. That's indicative of somebody who has an arterial problem. And what do we do for that? Well, there are some tests that you could do for it, the Ruber test, but one of the answers was something like the arterial Doppler, because there are venous Dopplers that they'll do for DVT. The arterial Dopplers are something they do for arterial problems, like intermittent claudication. Okay, so again, this is something that really needs to be discussed if you don't understand it. And Kevin will tell you of his availability, and because we really want to ensure not only so that you get a passing grade, but that you have an understanding of this material. Okay. Okay, Professor Maley.
Okay, actually, that's a good segue into what we're talking about today anyway, because as Dr. Stutz-Doyle said, you know, some of the material that was on your most recent exam, you know, is going to be test material for your licensing exam. And you may also encounter these things on your clinical assignments, okay? And it also helps to dovetail into the discussion of making this transition from your classroom and lab learning into your clinical assignments, which is what you're getting prepared to do now, okay? I sent you a lot of material that I want to quickly review, sent you in prep for this session today, because you're going to see how you're going to be evaluated on these clinical assignments, and you're going to see what you're expected to be responsible for in these clinical assignments. And that is really, really important, because one of the things that we've seen happen repeatedly is students will kind of begin this clinical experience with maybe some misconceptions or at least some questions about how things are going to go and what they'll need to do. And we want to address that. I want to make sure that we get your questions, as many of your questions, addressed before you start, but that you're also clear that when questions come up during this assignment, there's got to be an open line of communication between me and you, and in some cases between your instructors, whether it's Dr. Stutz-Doyle, Kevin, or Professor D'Onofrio, because we want to make sure that on your clinical assignments, you're able to demonstrate your competency in the things that we've already instructed you in the program. Okay. You also have to be acutely aware of what the expectations are for you from your clinical site. Okay. And I want to start off with that first concept as we talk about making this transition to the clinical experience, because all of you have some exposure to physical therapy in the clinical setting. Okay. You may have worked as aides in a clinic. You may have been perhaps, I don't want to say, you know, if you're coming from a personal training background, you haven't dealt with patients, you've dealt with people. Okay. At least I hope you haven't dealt with patients. And you may be coming, from example, from a massage background where you may have dealt with patients, you may have dealt with a healthy population or any mix. But one thing that's true of every single one of you is you've never been a physical therapist assistant student on a clinical affiliation. Okay. So this is a different role, and it's very important that you embrace and understand that role. Okay. Because as a PTA student, you need to function very differently than any past experience you may have had in a clinic. As I said, for example, as an aide. Okay. And there's a tendency sometimes for students that have been an aide or a tech to kind of fall back into that role when they're on their clinical assignments, because you're familiar with the environment. Even though you may be in a clinic you've never been in before, you may be familiar with the physical therapy clinical environment, and you know, old habits die hard sometimes. And we've seen this on occasion with some of our past students where they've kind of fallen into that, I don't want to call it a subservient role, but a support role of being an aide. Okay. Well, that's not what you're going to be as you start these clinicals. You're going to be involved to a varying degrees in treatment of actual patients. So people that have actual problems, and those problems could include, for example, arterial or venous wounds. So you're going to be dealing with not a healthy population. And what's even more important now, when Dr. Stutz-Doyle talks about different types of isolation and infection precautions, well, as you all know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. So this knowledge and this understanding becomes even more important. And we've had this conversation with, you know, your second year classmates, that in some cases, this has caught some people by surprise, that they may have gone into this field with, you know, an expectation of, you know, what it's going to be like to be a PT or a PTA. And I say PT because we're seeing it in some of our clinical sites, that this is a completely different world than a lot of us have had to deal with ever before. So things like infection control and isolation precautions obviously have become extremely important. And you're going to find that as you're on your clinical assignments, that's really going to be part of your expectation, is that you understand how to prevent spread of infection, because obviously that is critical to the entire society, the entire world right now. So that knowledge is more important than it's ever been. Okay. And it may represent a change in perspective for people that are going into this field, because maybe they've never dealt with this type of pandemic before. Well, the fact is, none of us in this field, none of us in the world have ever dealt with this pandemic, a pandemic like this in our lifetimes. So this is a very different situation. So your expectations and your role has changed from what it was even a couple of years ago. And that's why one of the reasons we felt it was important to do this kind of presentation. Okay, so that you're better prepared to begin the clinical experience. Okay, so what I want to start with before we do anything else, okay, let's see. Let me just share my screen so I can get these documents opened. All right, everybody sees my screen now? Anybody just respond?
Yeah, we can see it.
Thank you. Okay. So what I want to start with is Okay, you're seeing, this is the evaluation form that's going to be used for your first clinical assignment for this observational. Okay, this is what your CI, and CI stands for clinical instructor, in case that's not clear to everybody. This is what they're going to be completing for you. Okay, so you're going to see that there is the ability for them to make comments in these three particular areas: professionalism, safety, and communication skills. Okay, and we're looking for where your strengths and weaknesses are in this particular area. Because this first clinical assignment, you're going to be assessed differently than you will in the summer, fall, and spring in your clinical practica. Okay, we make that distinction. Even though we call this an observational assignment, as your CI will see, there are some skills that you should be able to perform safely on this assignment. Now, I was talking to one of you the other day about this upcoming assignment, and I can tell you right here and now, when you talk to your classmates during this assignment, or even if you talk to the second year students, you're going to hear tremendous variation in how they were treated and how they functioned on this observational assignment. Because that decision about how you will function is going to be up to the clinic that you're assigned to. It's going to be determined by your clinical instructor and especially the population that you may be working with. Okay, so your classmates, I can almost guarantee, will have a very varied experience during this assignment. Some of you will be very involved in patient care. Some of you will be a little bit involved in patient care. And some of you may spend the majority of your time truly observing. But it doesn't mean you're going to be passive observers. You're going to be asked questions. You're going to be quizzed. You're going to be asked for feedback. You may be asked to perform a particular assessment, whether it's goniometry or manual muscle testing. Okay. You may be asked questions about a particular patient. Okay. But the most important thing for you to understand going in, on this competency checklist, you see things that are highlighted with initials. Okay. Meaning we have verified that these are things that you should be able to demonstrate competency in. And in the columns that you see to the right of where it says competency test completed signed by faculty, your CI is going to be asked to check off, well, how did you do with this particular skill? Okay. Did you need some supervision? Did you actually need some specific assistance or instruction? That instruction is going to be included in assistance, you know, a reminder of how to do it. Or maybe it was not observed at all, which is entirely possible. Okay. The things that are asterisked are things that you are learning during this assignment, because you're only about halfway through the semester. So your CIs will understand that there are, you know, half a dozen things that you should be able to demonstrate competence in, to at least some level of competence. Maybe you need a little reminder, but it's just one reminder and then you're fine after that. But these are the things that we would expect you to be able to demonstrate competence in and that your CI can expect. Okay. Now, I want to touch very quickly on that whole concept of the CI, because it's, again, one of those misconceptions that we see with students when they start their clinicals. The term clinical instructor is probably a little bit of a misnomer. It's probably better to call them clinical assessors, because even though you may have a CI that wants to teach you a new skill, which is great, by the way, that's fantastic. We don't expect them to do that. They may want to do that, and that's fine. But one of the things that we tell your CIs on these assignments, if they're teaching you a new skill that we have not taught you, they cannot assess your ability to do that skill because we did not instruct you in that skill. We are the faculty in the program. We are the ones that have to instruct, teach you these skills during your clinical, during your education in the program. Okay, once you've graduated and gotten your license, hey, you're free to learn whatever you want to learn. But while you're in the program, while you're in this structured curriculum, there's a lot of reasons why we have to be very careful about what you're doing in the clinic and how you're being instructed and what you should know and should not know, because we don't want you practicing things on actual patients that we have not instructed you in. That's a very important point. Okay. And I had this conversation, I can tell you, just yesterday with one of our CIs, and we were talking about the importance of this. Because let's say, for example, a student PTA is, let's say it's a summer clinical, not this assignment. And a CI decides they want to teach that student cervical manipulation. We would tell that CI in the strongest possible terms to not do that for the CI's sake, not even so much for your sake, but certainly, you know, to protect the patient, because that would be, frankly, crazy. That would be dangerous, and that would be borderline, or probably even crossing the border of malpractice. So not that that's going to happen with any of you. Nobody's going to try to teach you cervical manipulation, especially on this particular assignment. So you don't need to worry about that, but I just use that as an example. So you should be able to demonstrate competency in those things that we list on this form. Okay.
Professor Marley?
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a quick question. Is
Yes.
that form the exact form that our CIs are going to be getting?
Yes.
I'm only asking because we only got like lectured on therapeutic massage. We never like got tested for it or like actually practiced like in lab.
Any questions regarding your competency in those things you really want to address, you know, to your instructor?
Right, but we will, because someone brought it up the other day, that we did do it online, and as you know from last semester, so we will take, and I think I took some of you anyway, a few of you, that we went over some things, but we will go over it prior to your affiliation, this observational affiliation. And Professor Maley, is it starting for all on Friday or no?
I'm sorry, say again?
Is it starting for all on Friday?
No, it's going to be starting the week of March 1st, because and actually there's still one student that I'm still waiting to get confirmation of placement on. So no, this would not start, depending on whether you're starting on a Thursday or Friday, because again, some of you have the ability to go on Thursday or Friday. So it'll either start on March 4th or March 5th will be the first day.
Okay, so we have time to go over that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there's still some time. Okay. So anyway, that's this first form. Okay, so you're seeing the competencies that are highlighted are the things that, you know, by the time you start your assignment, you should be competent in. And keep in mind, okay, this is an assignment, okay? This is part of PTA 102. About the only way that you're going to fail an assignment like this, to be brutally honest, is not so much in terms of these competencies, but these competencies: professionalism, safety, and communication skills. Okay.
Because Maley,
yes.
If I don't know if you're still sharing the document or not, because it doesn't appear like you're sharing the document at the moment.
Can no one see this document?
No. In like a minute ago, like it switched to just your background.
Yeah, we don't see it.
That's interesting. Okay, well, what I'm looking at are the attachments that I've sent everybody. So what you may want to do, I don't know why that has happened, because I'm not getting any message that my screen sharing has stopped.
Maybe just try to stop it and restart it again, the screen share.
Well, let's see. You know what I'm going to suggest is everybody has received this email. Okay, I am sharing again. It may be cutting me off after a certain period of time. What I would suggest then is just open up the attachment that I sent. Okay, But and frankly, it's not even that critical that you do it right now because you do have that attachment. What I wanted to talk about is the way that you're going to be assessed. Again, looking at those competencies, the individual skills. But then on the second page of that document, we talk about professionalism, safety, and communication. Those are the things that are particularly important in this first clinical, especially safety, and especially safety on every single clinical assignment, because that's job number one, is to make sure that anything that you're doing is being done safely. Okay. And that is the thing. If there's one thing that will lead you to fail a clinical assignment, it's failing the safety portion. Okay. So if, for example, there's a skill that you are supposed to be competent in, like therapeutic massage, and you're being asked to do it on a patient and you are not fully confident in your ability to perform that task, you're not just going to go ahead and give it a try. You need to be communicating that with your CI. Okay. And obviously, if it's something that is a recurring problem, that may involve me or your instructor. Maybe it involves some remediation with Kevin, for example. But you're certainly not going to just give it a try. Okay. That was also a thing that I was talking to a CI about yesterday, is this notion of, even though we talk about the practice of physical therapy, you're not really practicing on patients. At least I certainly hope you're not. You're there to, again, perform things that you should already know how to do. And we're asking your CI to confirm that, yes, indeed, you do know how to do this. Okay. That's their primary role in the clinical education of you and of every PTA or PT student, is just to simply verify that what we've instructed you in, you can in fact perform properly and safely and effectively. Okay. And you're not going to be perfect at everything first time out. Certainly, you're not going to be perfect in your first clinical. You're probably not going to be perfect in your second clinical. But we hope by your last clinical that you are at what we call entry level in everything. Okay, meaning you're ready to be a new graduate PTA. You're not even close to that yet. So don't be upset if you feel that you're not there yet, because we don't expect you to be. Okay. You know, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen, because if it's not going to work right, there's not much point. So that's the observation.
I'm sorry, Ken. If you want to make Kevin host for now, he can share anything you want, because if you have other things to share, you might run into the same problem. And then you can.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I can simply reference the things that I emailed everybody, that there are those attachments, and there's one particular link. When I get to the link, I think I should be able to share without any problem. But I just wanted to point out, first of all, that's what I wanted to say about this first observational. Okay. And again, as you all already know, it doesn't matter whether you're going on a Thursday or Friday, but you need to clear that with your clinical site and with your clinical instructor. Okay. But it's going to be one day a week. It will still conclude on April 30th. Okay. And again, you go Thursday one week, Friday the other week. Again, that's between you and your clinical instructor. But that needs to be cleared with them, and it needs to be agreed upon with them. Okay. You don't tell them when you're going to come. You ask when you can come. Okay. And obviously you're then responsible to be there when you're scheduled to be there, which brings me to the clinical policies. Okay. We talked about this, and I sent you an attachment with the clinical policies that were pulled out of your student handbook. And believe me, even though we talked about this at orientation, we touched on the clinical attendance policies, tardiness, etc. It happens every year. It happens on every assignment, that students either neglect or forget to keep me in the loop on communication with your clinical sites. You cannot do that. Okay. If you're going to be late, if you're going to be absent, If there's some problem, I need to be aware of it. And I need to be aware of it at the same time that your CI is aware of it. Okay. So if you tell your CI you're going to be late, you got to tell me you're going to be late. If you tell your CI you're going to be absent, you got to tell me you're going to be absent. If there's a problem in the clinic, some incident, some disagreement, some confusion, whatever the case may be, you've got to keep me in the communication loop. Okay, I can't know what's happening if I'm not told. And I can maintain communication with clinical sites as much as I want, but you know, things can happen, you know, 5 minutes after I have a conversation with you or your CI. So you got to keep me in the loop. And the reason for that is, if we're going to advocate for you, which we want to do, we can't advocate if we don't know what's happening. All right. So whatever it is, good news, bad news, something that's embarrassing, some mistake that you make that you're really ashamed of or surprised about or confused about, whatever it is, we can't help if we don't know. Okay. And I think I've said to you before, and I'll reiterate it here, again, as I like to put it, rule number one, no surprises. The last thing that you want to have happen during this or any other clinical assignment is something happens, whether it's an absence, recurrent lateness, a mistake, whatever. You don't want that to happen and have your CI know about it without me knowing about it. That's not good. That's really bad. Because if your CI contacts me and I say, I don't know what you're talking about, that makes you look bad. And it certainly makes the program look bad too. But we're not just concerned about appearances here. We're concerned about you being successful. And we can't help ensure your success without knowing what's going on. Okay, so that is just really, really critical that I emphasize that in terms of these clinical policies.
Professor?
Yeah, go ahead.
In terms of if we're gonna be, you know, informing you, is the best way to like CC you and our CI in the same email?
Certainly, absolutely. You know, when it's an email, that's the easiest way to do it. Now, I understand that's not the only way you're necessarily communicating with the site. You may be texting your CI. You may be talking to them on the phone. So obviously it's simple to simply CC me, okay, and vice versa. You know, I'll let you know if you send me something that is important for you to discuss with your CI and you just want to send it to me, that's fine. That's fine. And I'll let you know whether this is something that we need to include the CI on. And in that case, what will probably happen is I'll respond to you and CC them. But obviously that only applies to email. So you got to remember, a lot of times your sites will say, listen, if you're going to be out or if you're going to be late, give us a call. All right, well, you're going to have to notify me. Doesn't mean you have to call me, but you got to communicate with me in some way, which, by the way, is why I've set up this Remind app, using the Remind app that allows me to text you and vice versa. So that text function is extremely important because obviously I'm going to get that message a lot more quickly than if you send me an email. Okay. And so I need to make sure that all of you are accepting when I send you an invitation to join Remind. I'm simply asking you to authorize me texting you through that app. Okay, so that's really important. It's just going to save me a lot of time rather than trying to look up your cell number and send you an individual text. Okay, I can also send a group text using that app. So it's really important, and I will check. I believe I have everybody's cell number, and I believe I sent all the invitations to Remind, but I'll check that when we're done here, just to confirm that that's the case. Okay, so communication is key. Okay? Ongoing communication is key. And along those lines, again, if you're on an assignment, whether it's this assignment or your summer, fall, spring clinical, if there's a question that a CI has for you, okay, one thing, again, I had a long conversation with a couple of CIs yesterday who this may be your first clinical assignment with us or from us. So I've had some long discussions with them. And one of the things that I was emphasizing is if they have any question about the program, about the competencies that we've outlined or what you've learned in the program, we want to make sure that that communication is with us. So for example, as I said to the CI yesterday, we don't want the CI asking you what you know how to do, because they're not the ones who have affirmed your competency in things. So if they want to know what you know how to do, again, that's what we have. That's why we provide this competency checklist. And if there's any questions about something that's on that checklist, we need you to refer them to me, or in some cases, they may be referred to the instructor that taught that competency. Okay, whether it's this assignment or future assignments.
Professor?
Yeah.
So if, for example, our CI is maybe not asking us if we know what to do in terms of, you know, being able to put a check mark in a box, but more like, can you help me with this or whatever, if they're asking us to do something.
Mhm.
We've done it before in another setting outside of school, never been assessed for it in school. How do we go about that situation? Like, we know how to do it, but not something we've been cleared to do.
You mean like
Well-
putting a cuff on somebody or doing an ultrasound like a lot of aides do in clinic?
Those are good examples, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you probably know the answer to that question.
You would just say we haven't gone over.
We haven't covered it in the program yet.
Okay.
That's right. You have not covered it in the program yet. Listen, one of the things, the last course that you take in this program is professional issues. And the reason we put it last is, I'll be blunt. We know that, again, you're coming from varied backgrounds. We know there's a lot of different clinics out there that operate in very different ways. Okay. We know that there are certain skills that are only to be performed by either a PT or a PTA. And there's some skills that a PTA can't even perform. We're talking about legally. That varies by state, by the way. But we leave that to the end because, quite frankly, you'd be overwhelmed. Okay, we need to structure the instruction that you receive so that it's done in an orderly fashion and we don't overwhelm you with a ton of information earlier on in your education. As you get ready to graduate, there's a lot more you'll have to learn about. The way I describe it in the course is it's transitioning from doing PT procedures to being a PTA. Okay, your responsibilities change tremendously. So there are things that you may have done as an aide that I can tell you, I could say with a high degree of confidence that were illegal. I can almost guarantee it. And it doesn't shock me. You know, it's just that a lot of people don't necessarily fully understand how things are supposed to work. So you may have learned something as an aide, doesn't mean that you learned it the right way, quite frankly. So we need to be very careful about things that you're performing as a PTA student that you were not instructed in. So if you're being asked to do something on a clinical assignment that you have not been instructed in yet in the program, you simply say, we haven't learned that yet. We haven't been instructed in that yet. Okay. And if there's any question about it, then again, that needs to be referred back to me. Okay. Any question about it needs to be referred back to me. All right. Because again, as I said, I know there are some of you that have varying degrees of experience in dealing with exercise and maybe modalities on a limited basis. But we need to make sure we're all operating from the same baseline. And that baseline is, what have you been instructed in the program? Period. That's the baseline. Okay. So I want to make sure that you review these clinical policies, that they're not, don't think of this as some dead document that you stick up on your shelf and never look at again. Because there can be serious repercussions without following these clinical policies. And again, the most common one is generally involves attendance, including tardiness. Okay. And I'll ask everybody a question right now, and any of you can answer. How many days off of clinic are you permitted during an assignment? How many days off are allowed?
None.
Thank you. 0, 0, 0, 0. What your policies say is you may be excused one time. Does that mean you will never be excused more than one day? No, that's not what it means. It means you never assume that you can just skip a day. That any days that are missed may need to be made up. Depends why. And it also depends on how you're performing on the assignment. Because if you're doing great and you miss a day because you woke up with a really bad cold or a stomach virus, whatever the case may be, and you've been doing great on the assignment, well, that may be no problem. If you need a lot more practice because things have not been going so great and you've been struggling a little bit, well, there's a good chance that that day may need to be made up. Okay. But the focus is on the word may. Okay. You may be excused, you may not be excused. Okay. So we need to know, again, if you're not going to be there, if you're going to be late, the attendance issues tend to be the biggest problem that we will run into. And failure to notify me is often a big problem.
And sometimes, if I can interject, the makeup time needs to be done on a weekend.
Right.
That's when the facility has the availability.
Right.
So you guys should know that.
And along those lines, again, the thing that sometimes will come up is students will say, well, I work on such and such day. We are aware of that. Our clinical sites are aware that many, if not most of our students are working while they're in the program. But your clinical assignment has got to take priority. It doesn't mean that your CI or the site itself will be insistent that, you know, you can't leave a half hour early because you got to pick up your kid in daycare. You know, no, that's not what it means. But you don't want to be saying to a site, well, gee, I'd love to be here until 6 o'clock, but I have to go to work at 4. Well, you came in at 10. You know, we have you come in at 10 because we expect you to be here till 6, for example. So you don't ever want to let that be the conversation. Okay. Again, you need to resolve that with your CI. Make sure your schedule that you're getting in at least the minimum clinical hours that we're requiring, which is generally 7 at a minimum for a day. But at the same time, keeping in mind that a CI might say, listen, I know you're supposed to leave at 6, but at 6:30, we've got a new patient that's coming in that had a reverse total shoulder replacement. Okay. Which is not something you're going to see every day. And if they say, listen, I'd really like you to stay so you can see this because it's a unique experience or it's a very interesting patient, we would hope that you would be agreeable to that. You know, we do have kind of that expectation because that's clinical practice. That's the way healthcare is. Okay. And that's just the way it is. We may think that we're going to be leaving at 6 or 4 or 8 or whatever the case may be. And surprise, surprise, our last patient comes late. You know, this is just the nature of what you're going into. So you got to be flexible with that. Okay. Now, there's 2 things in addition to these policies that you need to make sure you're clear on. You see, it's only a couple pages, very simple to review. There's 2 things that I've sent you links for. Okay. And the first one relates to COVID, relates to the pandemic. As we talked about, we're in a very unique period in the history of healthcare, in the history of the world. And so the concerns about exposure to COVID, the concerns about dealing with patients who may or in fact do test positive for COVID, it's important that we have a good understanding of what our role is in healthcare with these patients. Okay. And the link that I sent you, that was in my email scheduling this meeting, is a link to a program that has been put together by the World Health Organization, WHO. Okay. You're going to be required, you are required to complete this self-paced learning program. Okay. And I'm going to try and see if I can get my screen shared so I can make sure that you see this, so you know exactly what I'm referring to. Let's see. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the program. Okay, this, you see that it's enroll me for this course. You need to do this course today. You're going to complete this course today. It's self-paced, meaning you can take as long or short time as you want. Okay, you see there's 4 modules to this. And when you're done, you're going to get a certificate of completion, which you will download as a PDF and you will send it to me. Okay, this is not hard. It's not hard at all. And you're going to see it. A lot of it is review of what you've had when you spoke with Professor Scott of the Nursing Skills Laboratory about infection control, and some information obviously is specific to COVID-19. But you're going to enroll in this course. There's no cost. It's a free course. You're going to enroll in this course and you're going to complete it. You just follow the instructions. Okay. If I click enroll, okay, you're creating a new account. Okay. Each of you will create a new account, real simple. And when you're done, you'll get a certificate, which you will email to me. Every single one of you needs to complete this prior to beginning your first observation. And I need you to do it today, so we know it gets done. Okay, that's why we're not planning on this, on my presentation, taking 3 hours. It'll probably take you no more than 45 minutes to do this. It's not hard. All right, but that is something you're going to need to do. All right. The other thing that you'll need to do, which is the other attachment that I sent to you. Again, everybody still sees my screen?
Yep.
Okay. This does not need to be done today, but this does need to be done before you begin your summer clinical. So in other words, it needs to be done by the end of the semester. All right.
I'm sorry, I thought that you wanted this done today also, so that it was done, because they are on this, they are scheduled for 3 hours. So after,
if they can get it done today, there's portions of it until they're assigned. There's portions of it that they may not be able to complete because they've got to have a clinical assignment and a clinical instructor. They can still complete the APTA training, which is the first step.
Okay, I want them to do today.
Yeah, the APTA training can be done today.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's certain things you will not be able to view of the CPI that's going to be used on your clinical assignment. You're just going to be reviewing a PowerPoint presentation. Again, a couple of most important things. Whenever you're logging in to any of the information that we're asking you to complete, always, always, always use your Essex email account. In the case of the PTA CPI, which I'm going to explain what that is in a second, when you're creating a login identity for the training of how to use the CPI, and when you're logging into the CPI website itself, okay, anything related to CPI, which stands for Clinical Performance Instrument, you need to use your Essex email address as your username, and you will create your own password to log in. Okay, so you're going to have a username to log in for the APTA training, which is going to be your Essex email address. You'll create a password. You don't need to be an APTA member to complete this training, but you do need to create a login identity. So I'm going to make sure that's clear. The reason you need to use the email address on both the APTA training and the CPI itself is that's how the CPI knows that you completed the training. It links your email address. Okay. So your username is always your Essex email. It's not C Birchler. It's cbirchler at email.essex.edu. That's your username. Okay. So you're going to complete the training for the PTA CPI. As I said, your evaluation on this observational is different than the evaluation that will be done when you start your summer clinical and in your fall and spring. And that form is called the Clinical Performance Instrument. Okay. It looks at 14 different indicators for your performance on the clinical. And among the top is safety and professionalism and communication. Okay. Which is why those are the three things we ask to be assessed on this first experience in your observational, because they're critical. And as I've said to you before, safety is number one of all of them. Okay. If you're not safe, you're not going to complete a clinical successfully. If you're not safe, you're not going to graduate. So safety is critical. Okay. And the training in the CPI is necessary because when you do your summer one, fall, and summer rather, not just summer one, when you do your summer, fall, and spring clinicals, you're going to be required to assess your own performance. And you're going to use the same form that your CI is going to use, because we want you to compare your assessment with the one that's done by your CI. And we want you to talk about it. You need to talk about it, because we want to make sure that there's not this disconnect between how you think you're doing and how they think you're doing, because that can be a real concern. And the only time that we get really, really concerned, and it does happen on rare occasions, where the CI says you're doing very, very poorly on something, and you say you're doing very, very well. That's a real concern, because then obviously there's a complete disconnect between the two of you. As I said, it doesn't happen very often. Generally speaking, you're probably more critical of your own performance than they are, which is kind of a healthy thing, honestly. That's probably the best way to approach it, is that you're more critical than they are. But in order for you to do this self-assessment, you have to understand how the CPI works. That's what this training is for. Okay. That's why you're going to follow the login instructions that are on this sheet. Okay. Any difficulties that you have are generally going to be related to not using the right login credentials. And that generally involves not creating an account with APTA, which again, doesn't cost you anything, or using the incorrect email address. Because I've already got you entered in the CPI web portal. That's what it's called, where the CPI is located. You're already entered there with your Essex email address. That's why everything has to be linked to that address. Okay. So you've got two things that you're going to need to do today. One is complete the COVID-19 training through the World Health Organization. As I said, it'll probably take you about 45 minutes. The second is to complete the PTA CPI training on the APTA website. That'll take you probably a little more than an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes. They're both just PowerPoints that you have to review, okay, with a little quiz at the end. Both quizzes allow you to go back and check your answers. So you're not going to fail. Okay, you just may need to go back and check your answer and then change it. And you can do that until you get the passing grade, which I know for APTA is 70. I think it also is 70 for the World Health Organization. I'm not quite sure. It's not on the top of my head. But it's not something that you can fail. It just may take you a little longer to complete because you keep having to refer back maybe to a previous slide. But that needs to be done today. Okay. Once you get your assignments for the summer, then you'll be assigned to a clinic and a clinical instructor then you'll be able to actually view the actual form that they're going to use to assess you. You're going to see that form when you do your training. You're going to see what the items are. But the actual form itself, you won't be able to see until you're actually assigned to a clinical, which is obviously that's still going on. Okay. Which brings me to the last thing I want to mention. Okay. As far as summer is concerned, again, I'm going to ask all of you to do this again. Even if you sent a prior notice, I want you to send me an email if you have a preference over attending your clinical during summer 1 or summer 2. And I need to know the reason for that preference. Okay, why are you requesting summer 1? Why are you requesting summer 2? Okay. And what we have to make sure of is that there's basically a pretty even distribution of students in summer 1 and summer 2. Okay, there's only 24 of you, so it shouldn't be hard to do. Okay, we will probably have enough sites, more than enough sites, to give you the requests that you have. I just don't want to wind up with a situation where, 20 of you say summer 1 and 4 of you say summer 2. That's not necessarily going to work very well.
But please also go to web services, you guys, and make sure that you have all the courses that you need, because next year it's going to be difficult with your schedule for scheduled physical therapy courses anyway, that you're going, if you need a history or you need an abnormal psych or you need something else, you should take it summer 1. You should try to take it to get it out of the way. You don't want to be taking A&P2 with all the things that you're taking next semester, as well as going to clinic, because you'll be in clinic 2 days a week and you'll be in class 3 days a week. So
right.
The schedule is going to be a lot more difficult. That's why when Professor Maley says schedule, you may need to schedule summer 2 because you have to take classes in summer 1. And the classes in summer 1 are not offered a lot of times in summer 2. So
right.
You need to get it over with. If it's a history, it's abnormal psych. So you need to go to the college web services. You guys know how to get on there and make sure that they've accepted the credits that you have transferred in. So you need your history, you need your Englishes, you need your anatomy and physiology 1 and 2. You had 1, but we want to make sure you have your 2 and your abnormal psych and anything else that you need to get through the program. Okay. So if they didn't accept something, you may need to have to go back to enrollment services and ask them to reevaluate the transcript, the transferability, but make sure that those courses are in there. Okay?
Yeah, and obviously first priority is going to be given to students who need to take courses in the summer. That's first priority, because we need to get you through the program. So those are the students that get first priority about scheduling summer 1 or 2. Okay, it may be a scheduled family vacation, it may be a wedding, it may be whatever, it may be some summer job that you're depending on for income during the summer. Whatever, I need to know the reason for your request. Okay, and generally speaking, it's really rare that I can't meet that request, but I need to know. Okay, and just as a reminder, because someone's going to ask, summer 1 clinical runs from May 10th through June 11th. Summer 2 clinical runs from July 12th through August 13th. Okay. So what I'm going to need to know from each one of you is if you have a specific request. I mean, I will tell you that what's most important is if you're requesting summer 1. Because generally speaking, if somebody doesn't care, they're probably going to go in summer 2, unless they have a specific preference otherwise. Okay. Again, it's going to be dependent on availability of clinics, why you need 1 versus 2, and it's a balancing act. And it shouldn't be too hard to balance because we don't have a huge number of students. But that's an assumption, and I can't guarantee that assumption is right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So it's May 10 to June 11 for 1, July
Correct.
12 to August 13 for 2.
Correct.
And what are the days? Is it
Monday through Friday? It's full time, which keep in mind, and that's actually something I should mention. These are full-time assignments, okay? When you have an assignment like you do now, coming up now, where it's 1 day a week, again, we're saying it could be Thursday or Friday, it doesn't really matter, depends on your class schedule. The full-time assignments generally means 35 to 40 hours a week. That generally means Monday through Friday. That doesn't absolutely mean Monday through Friday. Your clinic may have a schedule where they have you coming in 3 12-hour days, okay? That's still more than 35 hours a week. Is that acceptable? Absolutely. They may have you come 4 10s. They may have you come Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. That's okay too, okay? Full-time means you're expected to be there at least 35 hours a week, however that schedule may be configured. And that's true for any full-time assignment. Fall is different because it's Tuesday and Thursday, and it's got to be Tuesday or Thursday because you have classes the other days. But the full-time assignment generally means Monday through Friday. But again, there's lots of variations on that schedule. Okay. So obviously, those of you who are looking to work, you know, it's probably going to be a little harder to juggle during those full-time assignments, but it's what you got to do. You got to do it. Okay. And we've never had a student that has failed a clinical because they allow their work schedule to interfere. They've never failed a clinical. They may have some issues with it, but they're not going to fail. So it's just important that you make sure that your clinic takes priority.
If there is a problem, then Professor Maley or whoever is in charge of clinics, usually it's Professor Maley in the summer, but it may not be for summer too this year, we're really not sure. But if it necessitates the ACCE coming in, then there's also a form that's generated from Professor Maley, and that gee, what the name of that? It's just escaped me.
Yeah, well, we're never going to assume that that's ever going to happen. But what Dr. Stutz-Doyle is referring to is if there's a serious problem that is potentially going to lead to you failing a clinical. Okay, first of all, we're checking performance, you know, during the clinical itself, and on rare occasions, there may be a serious problem that needs to be remediated. Okay, something that you're consistently doing wrong, or something that you're clearly not understanding, or something you're refusing to do. I mean, it could be lots of things. If there's something that is endangering your successful completion of the program, passing the clinical, then we may have to develop what's called a clinical education probation contract, where I speak with your CI, I speak with you, and we develop basically a contract that says, okay, this is what you need to do, and this is when it needs to be done by. Okay, maybe it's reviewing goniometry, bony landmarks. It's performing this without asking questions. Again, it's going to be something that you should already know how to do. All right, that's the only thing that's going to get you in trouble on a clinical, is if you're not able to do something that you should be capable of doing. All right, and the contract says if you don't do this by this date, which is generally the end of the clinical, then you will not pass the clinical, or you may not pass the clinical. There are times when we might say that extra time is needed for you to achieve that level of performance. So maybe the clinic is supposed to end on June 11th. It may get extended to June 18th, for example, to give you extra time to make up these deficiencies or this one deficiency.
And a lot of this is secondary to poor communication, as Professor Maley said.
Oh yeah.
There are times that we hear at the very end of the affiliation that, well, the student's having a problem now because they've been out 4 times, or they've been late 5 times and out 3 times. Well, if we've never heard from the CI about that, well, you know, certainly it's the CI's responsibility to let us know, but it's more so your responsibility to let us know that you haven't been there. So if we, as Professor Maley said before, if we cannot advocate for you, if they say to us, well, the reason why he's doing so poorly right now and we're failing him is because he's been out 4 times this affiliation. If we have no idea that you've been out or why you've been out, there's nothing we can do. So it may necessitate a probationary contract or even you failing that clinical. And if you fail a clinical, you have to keep in mind that you will have to wait till next year to complete it. So you will have to come back into the program, take a comprehensive exam, written and practical, in order to be let back in.
Right. And the last thing that I want to say about that, because again, I think it's important to emphasize, you guys talk to each other, and you will always talk to each other, and you will continue to talk to each other, which is fine. That's okay. I mean, you help each other learn. But the one thing I want to really caution you about is conversations that you have with each other about each other's experience in a particular clinic. Okay. I will tell you a horror story about this. That this did not happen at Essex. Okay. There used to be a PTA program at Bergen Community College, which I taught in. And one of the students at a particular clinic was bad-mouthing the clinic to their classmates. And not just bad-mouthing, they actually accused them of breaking the law. They said some very damning things. And I got a phone call from the owner of that clinic. As you could imagine, he was livid, rightfully so. And it obviously led to a termination of the agreement with that clinic, which we don't ever want to have happen. But it also can have implications for you in your education. Be very careful about what you say to your classmates about your clinical experiences. Okay, I know you're going to talk to each other. And as I said, that's fine, that's okay. But you got to be careful, number one, about what you're saying. And number two, as I'm sure you realize, everybody's going to have different experiences with different CIs. And so one of you may love the experience at Clinic X. Somebody else may have hated it. Okay, that's just the nature, that's human nature. And there's so many things that can impact on how that experience goes. And first and foremost is how you respond to that experience. And it doesn't mean you're always right or you're always wrong. But as the student, you need to tread lightly and you need to be careful about what you say to your classmates. And most of all, understand that, you know, you can have two different people go through the exact same thing and have two very different assessments of how that went. So just keep that in mind. You know, it happens with every clinical site. If somebody loves their CI, somebody else can't stand them. Somebody loves the clinic, somebody else can't stand it. It happens all the time. You know, we're all different. You know, but you do want to be careful about what is said and what you say to each other and forming too many conclusions based on what somebody else tells you. You know, I think that's pretty much what I've got, Chris.
When do you want us to email you about summer 1 or summer 2?
Anytime. After
you do these other 2 assignments that are attached to this.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. After this, yes.
So we're going to end this. Kevin's going to speak to you a little bit, and then we'll be ending this so that you guys can work on the 2 things you need to do. Because if they're taking about 2 hours to do, that's what we included in this session. Okay, so that you completed, it's finished. You don't have to worry about. The last thing I want you to be doing is doing the CPI on May 11th. You know,
right.
when you should be working on it right now.
And FYI, I will just leave this room open so Kevin can speak with any of you freely. You know, you can log out and log back in again, but I'll leave this room open until 11:30. Okay, so if anybody has any questions about something, you know, I'll be here. I don't know if Kevin will be on the entire time, but the room will stay open. So, you know, you can multitask.
Professor, I just have a quick question about summer classes. Do you have an idea of when I'll be able to check availability for summer classes? Because I just went on to try and check and they're not up there. So just to kind of decide when we're going to do, you know, if we want to do summer 1 or summer 2.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know. I'm not sure if you know the answer to that. I'm not sure if it's been posted yet. You know, I certainly will try to find out when they know the summer semester schedule will be posted.
Yeah, because I just went to look up summer classes and you can't see them yet.
It
So
usually takes, like, I think they put that up within like the next month or something
Okay.
like that. It's not gonna be up right
Yeah,
now.
it's not up right now. And Andrew, do you need you need a class?
I need abnormal psych and medical terminology.
Okay, all right. So you're smart to be taking it summer one. Can also send Dr. Stein an email. She'll have the answer to that, I'm sure.
For when the schedule's gonna be posted, yeah. But
Yeah,
generally speaking, as Dr. Stutz-Doyle said, generally speaking, if you're gonna need to take a class, you're probably gonna have to take it in summer one, which means you need to do clinical in summer two.
yes, but they
Okay.
won't schedule, they usually don't have those classes offered in summer too.
Okay.
The other thing is, and if, I don't know if you guys know this, but if you're not in county and the courses are attached to the program, you still get in-county rates.
They apply for chargeback.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So. if
How
you-
long does the chargeback typically take?
That's up to the county you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any control over that.
So, but you can take it, I mean, if you wanted to take it at Bergen or whatever college or Rutgers or wherever, if you wanted to take it there, you could also take it there. But if you take it here, if you take it at Essex, and it's attached to a course that's in the program, like MedTerm, because that's in the program, you would get in-county rates for that. So it's up, whatever you guys want to do.
Oh, so we
But,
can, sorry, we can take them out of county, the classes if we need to?
yes, you can. You can.
Beautiful.
As
Just
long
be
as-
aware, as you know, with every out of county class, you're then going to be responsible to make sure you get that transcript sent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And follow up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
that could sometimes be more of a headache than not too. So, like the classes in Essex County count for your credits. There are times where you gotta like do a lot of talking to like the other staff to get credits to transfer. So
Yeah, and if things are gonna stay online, it's probably easier to do it through Essex, I mean, if things are online. But
And I
that's,
think medical terminology is often offered as an entirely online course anyway.
it never used to be, but it has been since COVID. And I mean, at Essex, I'm talking about at Essex. I know at other schools it's been online, but it is online and probably abnormal psych is also, so.
Probably, yeah.
It might be easier.
Taking both those courses online.
Yeah. So.
Also, really quick, you said, because there was a couple classes that I noticed that were not accepted, and I know there's issues that, anytime you transfer to another school. You said I could possibly talk to them and see if that could be transferred?
Yes, Joe, because a lot of times what they do is they take classes that you don't need. And I don't know why that is, but they do that. They still take a class and then they say, well, we can't take any more because you've already exceeded your limit.
Gotcha.
What you need to do is go up to enrollment services and fill out a form to let them reevaluate your transcript and tell them specifically what you want reevaluated. If
Okay.
you take a physics and you don't need physics and you need English comp too, and they haven't taken that. So
Okay.
even though they have a list of what needs to be evaluated, sometimes, depending on who evaluates it, they accept something that you don't really need. And then they say, well, we've already accepted the maximum amount of credits. So then you have to say to them, listen, I don't need the physics. Please substitute that from my A&P too. And that's easy. You just have to fill out a form.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Quick question. For the World Health Organization, is that link on one of the attachments to
No,
take the test?
it's in the email itself. The email that I
Oh,
sent you
okay.
announcing this meeting. Yeah.
Okay.
Professor
Thank you.
Millie,
Yes.
if our CI isn't emailing us back, can we call the clinic?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I will tell you, again, when we talk about the differences between different clinics, some CIs are more responsive than others. The other thing I can tell you is when you get assigned to a clinic, I don't assign who the CI is. I can only assign the clinic that you're going to, because the clinic itself will determine who your clinical instructor is going to be. Sometimes I know who that is and sometimes I don't. Okay, so anytime you're not getting a response to an email, that marvelous invention called the phone call, it's amazing what you can accomplish in a phone call. I mean, I'm joking, but
They have their illuminated boxes.
Wait, what's a phone call?
yeah, exactly. It's amazing. You can talk to people in real time.
You mean
That's
interacting with
not
another
right
human?
now. Devin is-
They only like to do it through apps, Professor Bailey. They don't like
Yeah, I
to
know.
talk to a
Yeah,
human.
I know. I know. You want to know, is there an app for that? Yeah, no, it's called conversation.
Laura, I have a question. In regards to the World Health Organization, when we create an account, do we use our school email or?
Again, as
our
I said,
personal
make
ones?
sure for everything, anything that's related to the program, all communications, anything, you always use your Essex email address.
Okay.
Okay.
And I have a question for you. So we want the World Health Organization thing complete 100%, but then when we do the PTA CPI, we're only doing it to a certain point in the application, and then we can't do the rest because we're not assigned.
No. No, what I was saying is the passing score for you to get your certificate of completion can be different between the two. It's not that you're only doing 70% of the CPI training. It just means when you're taking the quiz at the end, you only need 70% to pass.
Okay.
That's what
But I think he's asking, can they do the CPI, all of the CPI stuff today, or is it just that they?
Oh,
can-
sure.
They can.
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely.
Okay, because I think before you were saying something like you need to have a summer clinical scheduled.
You're not going to be able to see it when you look at those instruction sheets. You're not going to be able to make any entries onto an actual CPI form because you haven't been assigned a clinical yet. The training that you're going to take, the training is training in how to actually complete that form, how it works, how the CI uses it, what you can do. That's what the training is for.
But you'll be available, right, Professor Mealy, when they start,
yeah.
if they have a question.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so Kev, do you wanna, I'm sorry, Professor Mealy, you're finished, right?
Yeah, I'm all set.
Okay, and Kev, do you wanna talk to them a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I can. So, yeah, so you guys need, if you guys want, and some of you guys want to go over those questions, like I said, some of you have already reached out to me about individually scheduling like a one-on-one for reviewing with your tests. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Just reach out to me via email. The other thing is if you guys want to go over like those most common questions, we could meet up and go over those like 12 most commonly incorrect questions a little later today. I would recommend that maybe you guys do it after you do these other two things first, and you can like let me know. I mean, so what do you guys think? Do some of you want to potentially just meet up in a couple hours and go over those questions?
Yeah, I would really like that.
Okay, so
Also,
Steve,
could
you're
you
down.
email us the grades
What?
by then? Could you possibly email us the grades by then, by the time?
Oh, yeah. So one thing I was going to actually ask is I just changed the
They're up
setting on
now. You
Moodle.
can see it.
Yeah, they're up.
They're up. They don't have your extra credit. Like I can't put extra credit scores with the Moodle exam grade. So you have to go into your bonus questions, see what the score, like we have a sheet, an Excel sheet where we do put the extra credit and everything together. But on Moodle, I can't make, like there's no setting to put extra credit with the exams.
Yeah.
So you have to just look at what you got on the bonus question and add it to your exam score. And that's going to be your final score. And you should all have your exam scores up now. You should be able to see them.
Kevin, is there any way that you can allow us to review the exam itself just so we can see what we got wrong?
That's what you would schedule with me to do.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I can also do that. So if you want to just do individuals, that's fine. And we you know, like just send me an email and we'll kind of figure that out. I would say
Okay.
for those of you who are looking at your scores, you know, like I said, a lot of questions that people got wrong, they were very common. So like, if you are free today, I mean, I don't know, you guys have, it's going to take like probably 2 hours for you to do these tests. Would you guys want to hypothetically do like a review session on these questions? Like, I don't know, like 12 or something, 12 or 1.
1 o'clock would be
I
good.
see,
with that.
I see some people making faces and I see nothing on other people.
I mean, you guys don't have to show up. It's just like literally I'm asking if any of you guys want to do it today as a group, you can, or you can shoot me an email. I don't really care. Like,
Like to go over the commonly
Yeah.
mistake questions. Okay, the ones that
Yeah.
were like repeated. Okay.
Yes, like the ones that like more than half of you got wrong.
Those
Like,
12 questions, right?
yeah,
that-
there's like
that's
12
great.
questions that like more than half of you got wrong that you probably most of you shared in
Like
getting wrong. So
that
like,
question with the burn, with the chemical.
yeah, I mean, I'm asking you guys because like I just like, you know, it's Friday and I have other things I want to do too. So like, let's figure it out. Like, do we want to do like 12 or 1? Like what? Like,
Okay, I'm gonna get off right now.
Yeah.
What I do want to say that those of you, the grades are available. You could see what your grade is. And as I said, you're going to be very surprised because some of you really did poorly. So, and again, I don't care about the numbers so much. I care about your understanding. I know you guys care about the numbers, but I really want you to understand this. So if you have not done well, and the reason is because you really don't understand it, then you really need to schedule an appointment with Kevin.
Yeah.
Dr. Stutz-Doyle, I just have a question for you. The things we did in lab on Wednesday, are we required to hand anything in to you for that? Okay.
No, we'll ask you when we come in, because it's basically, I just really want the physiological effect and what you thought. And so I want you guys to, all the stuff that you need to read, it should confirm what it is that you have, that you found out during your lab, you know, what happens to the blood pressure, what happens to the pulse rate. And basically what position would be the best for examination of the patient, when's conduction the greatest, that kind of thing. Because if you read all the information about therapeutic hot and cold, you're going to have to know those principles of conduction and convection, et cetera. Okay?
Okay.
So we'll discuss it on Monday.
Okay.
Okay. See you later, Kath.
See you, Dr. Stutz. All right. Yeah.
I'm assuming that the reason that we can't ever look at the, you know, the questions are on our own time is because, you know, we could take screenshots.
of them. Yeah. Yeah, that's basically it. Like, if it was done physically with the piece of paper, what Dr. Stutz lets you do is go into her office and look at her exams while she's there to prevent people from taking pictures. But yeah, that's basically the reason why. There's no way to prevent you guys from taking screenshots, and it's the world we live in. So,
And sell them to another college and make money.
yeah. I mean, and it's not necessarily sell them, but you know, you could potentially make a lot of money going to the next first years and being like, hey, I got the questions you're gonna have, you know. So yeah, if some of you got, like, what do you guys think? If some of you want to meet up as a group, we can go over those questions. If you want to do it individually, that's fine too. Just email me for the individual thing. Would some of you guys want to meet at like 12 or 1 or whatever?
Can we meet
somewhere
at
in the middle?
Ashka, I think you should send out a poll on WhatsApp, see who's actually going to be able to come.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay, I could do that.
That
And I'll
might be
just
the
email Kevin then right away when I just.
Yeah, okay, then why don't you
Yeah,
guys
that might
do
be the
that?
most efficient.
Figure it out. I mean, you know, if it needs to be like, it doesn't need to be all of you have to do one group. You could also potentially do like 2 groups today. Like, I'd rather try and get these questions done and answered for most of you guys early. So if you got to do like 2 groups or something because some of you have to do work or whatever, that's fine. Just kind of figure it out and give me an idea of the times. Like, you know.
Okay, yeah, I'll just send you an email then once I ask everybody.
Okay, and then and so figure that stuff out, guys. And like you should, I highly recommend you prioritize these 2 clinical things first. So.
Kevin, if I wanted to email you and set up something later, should I use your Essex email?
Yeah, use my Essex email. Yeah.
Okay.
Second, third question.
Yeah.
What for the training that we have to do for the APTA, the PTA stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where do we find that? Because I know it says that we have to do the training if it's under, if I'm assigned to a CI on an open
Yeah.
evaluation, but nothing comes up.
That is an excellent question. I don't actually know, man. I assumed that there was links for you guys to go for this thing, so I don't know.
I'll follow up with Dr. Maley then.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So you guys, like I said, try and meet up or send me an email, and we'll figure this out. Okay. One piece of advice that I got to tell you is the way this exam is, like with the types of questions and the theory, it's the way it's pretty much going to be for the rest of the semester. It's like the same kinds of, like, it's not muscles, it's not bones, it's a lot of like abstract memorizing crap about heat and electricity and ultrasound, like random terms, confusing crap. Like, so like keep that in mind. And so if you want to talk about like how to prepare for that kind of stuff, I can give you some pointers for that too. So like shoot me an email for that kind of stuff. All right. Or we can talk about it in the group session too.
All right, guys. So I think Casey sent a message, but just confirm within the next few minutes so I can send Kevin an email, just letting him know who's going to be on for what time.
All right. All right. You guys don't need to say that. So shoot me an email, Ashka, and that sounds good.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.